Welcome back. I've left Asia and I'm starting the next chapter now. So today I wanted to continue along the series that we've been speaking about slowing down, about integrating, and now I want to sort of talk about this case of urgency that tends to come up when we start to move forwards again. When we come out of that slowing down period, we come out of the integration phase, we have a direction and we know what it is we want to work towards. But what happens? Where do we start and how does that actually look in real time? So to start, it's this concept of urgency versus momentum. And what I find is that as soon as I start to get that sort of energy again and that sort of drive again to start working towards things or start to move in the direction that I found from that period of slowing down and letting things just integrate, my brain goes, right, let's go, let's start, let's get everything done now, sets these arbitrary deadlines, which I spoke about in the last episode about sort of false urgency. It's that voice in my head that says, go now or you'll lose it. You've already wasted time. And that's key, isn't it? The idea that you've wasted time by resting. But in reality, that's the urgency talking and the momentum that you've built and we've built from a period of time of working on something and having that period to slow down and let everything integrate. You actually know and understand that you are still moving forwards. There is a direction that maybe you didn't have before. You've now got these ideas, these creative flows, these feelings and motivation of actually this is something that I can work on and this is something I can do. But what it doesn't mean is to let the urgency play the role where you then decide I need to do all of these things right now, otherwise I fail, otherwise I'm bad, otherwise I'm not motivated and I will never succeed, because that's just not the case. But as I said, I think that urgency is actually a really positive sign because it means that we've moved past this stage of rest. Whatever the reason was for you feeling like you needed to slow down, whatever the reason was for you to actually just kind of take a pause, take a break, take a minute, you've moved past that and now your body, your nervous system, your mind is saying, okay, cool, well, let's go, let's get to work on that idea, let's get to work on that opportunity, let's get back to work, or whether it's the gym or a goal or a hobby where you want to start pushing again. You want to either match the levels you were doing before or you want to surpass them. And that's great because then you're entering into that stage which is full of excitement, where you're starting to rebuild the confidence, where you feel like those small wins that you do from day to day actually starts to just really reinforce that confidence of this might actually go somewhere, this might actually work, rather than that space in between where you're just pausing and you're trying to decide what that next step is or what best direction to go in, and you kind of allow those doubts and fears enter because you're not actually at the stage where you're starting to walk towards something. But again, it comes back to the whole urgency thing, and for me it's understanding that I don't need to rush the goals that I have and the things that I'm working on. I can work towards them within my own rhythm and within my own time, and I will inevitably be more successful if I honor what my limitations are, what my other commitments are, and I allow space for everything else to coexist alongside it. I think that I can actually benefit from having that urge to speed up because it tells me where my goals are, it tells me what motivates me, but I can actually learn. Every surge of energy doesn't need immediate action. I don't need to have an idea and then just run with it straight away. I don't need to think of something or come up with a decision and then decide right then I'm going to book that flight, I'm going to text that person, I'm going to start that hobby or that goal. It's where you can actually learn from having that integration phase and having that slow down phase and allowing yourself to just download whatever it is that you've come up with. So for me, coming home and seeing people that I've not seen for a long time, the sort of difference in hours, the jet lag, the darker mornings and stuff, they're all variables which impact my energy levels and impact my sort of state of mind. So if I just hop onto the urgency train and I push through, and even though I'm waking up and it's sort of 4 or 5 a.m. because of the time difference and it's dark outside, but I'm just hammering it anyway, and I'm on my laptop in the dark and I'm going to the gym or whatever else it may be, I'm actually just going to take longer to adjust to this period at home. I'm actually just going to make myself miserable, and I'm actually going to impact my own energy levels anyway. So it's understanding, by having momentum, by knowing that you have already achieved all of these things, you've already taken all of these steps. If you compare yourself to from today to 3 months ago, to a week ago, even 6 months ago, you can see those steps that you've taken. You can see the new direction that you have. You can see the ideas that you didn't know you were going to have 6 months ago that you have now. So you can see the momentum, and maybe you have actual tangible things which show that you have momentum, whether that be income or success in whatever field or hobby. Maybe you've lost weight, maybe you've increased numbers in whatever it is that you're working towards. You can actually see that you have the momentum. But I think the hardest thing is when you don't necessarily see the momentum that you have, and all you can really feel is this urgency to go. And it's interesting for me because one of the things that I have chosen to end a lot of my Instagram reels with is keep going, you're doing better than you think. And I think it's really easy for me to tell other people, point out all of these things that they're doing, even if there isn't something that they necessarily have succeeded on, like they don't have, they got from point A to point B, but I'm very good at looking at someone's current circumstances and pointing out all of the amazing things that they're doing. And it's that, keep going, you're doing better than you think. But then what I don't necessarily do is actually apply that to myself. And I think that's where the sort of urgency and momentum thing comes into play again, because the urgency is telling me that I'm not doing anything, I'm not achieving anything, I still have stuff to do on my to-do list. But the reality is I am doing better than I think, and I do need to just keep going, but at a rate that works for the cycle of life that I'm in, the period of the year that I'm in, and the current space that I've moved into. There's other variables outside of creating a business, building a social media following, making these YouTube videos. There's other aspects of my life which are important, and as you all know, there are things in your life which are important to you, whether that's friends, whether that's family, relationships, hobbies, interests. Maybe it's the Stranger Things season 5. Like there's other things that you want to do. I think that's where this kind of like invisible middle occurs, and I think it can be quite uncomfortable, because where I find myself in now is there's nothing that has actually happened yet. So even though I can see the changes, I can see the ideas that I have and the new direction that I have, and I've obviously taken steps forwards from where I was before, but I haven't finished. Like there hasn't been something that I have achieved. Like I can't necessarily sit here and say I've built this is my business, this is my job, this is my income, this is where I'm living. So I still feel like I'm in the same set of circumstances that I was in 6 months ago, a year ago, because from like the outside and obviously internally as well, it feels like nothing has changed. But the reality is everything has changed, and the last few months entirely everything has changed. Even just by November time, a couple of months ago, I was sat in a sort of cafe thinking, okay, I have a sort of bit of an idea for sort of some coaching and some teaching, and I'd like to do some social media stuff, but I'm not really sure what I would post about. I'm not really sure who would my audience be and what would I offer. And fast forward to now, I can tell you what my audience is. I can tell you what I want to offer. I can tell you what I am actually building. I can show you my social media following, and I can show you what sort of things I post, and I have a long list of ideas of what to post. So there is considerable amount of momentum to move forwards from 2 or 3 months ago, but I feel like I'm in this kind of invisible middle where it has changed from there, but I'm not quite here yet. So I'm just in this space in between where those feelings of, well, is this working? Will it work? Will it go anywhere? Will I earn any money from it? Should I be doing something else? What's the point? All of those fears start to come into play because there isn't necessarily anything happening for you to be massively confident that it's working. And I see it quite a lot on social media. If you were one decision away from achieving your goals, would you stop? And obviously you wouldn't, but the fact is you never know how close you are. And you could post 100 reels and not really grow and give up and go, do you know what, this clearly isn't working, it isn't for me. But that 101st reel could have been the one, and obviously you won't know that because you can't necessarily predict it, but it's the compounding and the confidence that builds. And I think you almost have to have a level of audacity and a level of delusion to fight through this invisible stage where you feel like you need to kind of prove whatever it is you're doing, and you feel like you need to finish whatever you started, urgency, because right now there isn't anything tangible, and right now there isn't a product or an outcome for you to say, this is what I've been working on, this is what all of the hours and all of the time and energy I've spent have been for, but you don't have that. So that's where the urgency comes into play, because the urgency is telling you, you need to finish it because we're uncomfortable in this space in between. I have tried to zoom out a bit and kind of just acknowledge those sort of wins that I have, those things which maybe I don't necessarily feel the level of success because there hasn't been any sort of monetary movement, there hasn't been a base that I found. Like I've not met my partner, I've not found the career, I've not found a home. All of those things that maybe we apply success to, that hasn't happened. So there's part of me that, as I said, is pushing to be finished, because then I can sit and prove to myself that I've succeeded, or everything that I've been doing has been for a reason, rather than just chasing something which I don't necessarily know what the outcome is going to be. And you kind of believe that you're building something which is going to be successful or is going to change your life, but you don't know. So you're just putting these sort of hours in, hoping, waiting, thinking, trying. And yeah, so it's what I've tried to do is just zoom out to look at it from the perspective of, okay, well, even just the quality of these videos, in terms of, if you go back and watch some of my earlier ones to watching them now, how much more comfortable I am speaking in front of the camera. The editing process is a lot shorter because I'm doing these in one take. Also, the quality of the Instagram feed and the Instagram reels, the standard has improved, the quality has improved. I have more subscribers, I have more followers, I have a sense of direction as to what I'm doing. I have people reaching out to me in my messages, telling me about things that they're experiencing, that they're going through. They're talking to me about my content, about my ideas. So there's things which are happening, and things which are ultimately signs of moving forwards and moving in the right direction. But because it isn't necessarily money in your account, a shiny plaque which says you've achieved this number, or whatever arbitrary thing we decide ends it or gives us success or gives us that feeling. And I think that's also part of my worry, is I don't think that feeling will ever arrive. I don't think there is a amount of followers, views, money, income measure where I will actually sit here on this channel and go, do you know what, guys, I think I'm done. I think I've achieved everything, because the goalpost will always move. It's just who I am as a person. And I think a lot of people are like that, where you just keep moving the goalposts, you just keep moving forwards. Once you can stand up on a surfboard, you want to be able to turn. Once you can turn, you want to be able to carve back. And there's just always the next thing to work towards, which is good. And it can take you to sort of different places and different heights. But I think there's definitely power in having security in who you are and what it is you're doing in your life, and being comfortable with, these are the things that I'm doing, these are the things I enjoy, these are the people around me, and I'm happy. I feel like I've achieved success, and I don't think that's a failure. And I think for me, I genuinely admire people that are more secure than me enough to be content with what they have, because I think part of what drives me is the insecurity that I felt throughout sort of my 20s and my childhood. So now it's playing into this need or drive to be successful, to achieve something, to build something, to make a difference, to create all of the things which have positive influences and negative influences. I don't think we ever make a decision which doesn't have the positive and the negative. So for all of the positive reasons as to why I'm doing this, and for all of the things which I genuinely get enjoyment and fulfillment out of, there's definitely an underlying insecurity of wanting to do it to prove to myself and my 20-year-old self and my 10-year-old self that I can do this. So yeah, I think I'm in this kind of space where I'm trying to be a bit steadier, and I am acknowledging this urgency to do, and this feeling of I need to finish in order to prove that I have had success and I am moving forward and there is momentum. But I'm also trying not to get lost in that space and shut every other aspect of my life out in order to go all in on something which will ultimately happen anyway, whether it happens in the next 3 weeks because I put 12-hour days into it and I shut myself off from the world, or it happens in 3 months because I balance my time and I spend time with my friends and family and put energy into my hobbies and my health. The outcome is still going to be the same. And I suppose for me, I would argue that my output is going to be better if I take longer, because the urgency is potentially going to make me cut corners. I'm maybe not going to think things through as much. If I have an idea and I action it at that moment, then the idea is at its very rawest, which can be great, and I've had success off of social media with those really raw ideas, so I'm not saying that they're bad, but I also think there is definitely power and strength in knowing which ideas are best to go with in their rawest, and what ideas are best to just sit on for maybe just a few days. Like, it doesn't need to be you've had an idea, maybe you kind of have a feeling of a direction you want to go, but let's wait a week, let's wait a month, let's wait a year. That's not what I'm saying. But I think there is something in having an idea or a direction or a thought pattern, and maybe just speaking to a friend about it, maybe just going for a walk, just sleeping on it, having a couple days to just kind of see how it lands, because you might change your mind. And one thing that I definitely notice that I do, and I don't know if I do it intentionally, but sometimes I will have an idea and I will have something that I want to do, but I can't motivate myself to do it. And I know that that's a dysfunction thing, but sometimes it's because it's not right. And I associate the build up in dysfunction, the procrastination, as it's not quite there. So what tends to happen is, let's say a week or two passes where I'm like, I have that urgency of, right, I need to start that. I had that idea, I need to do it now. But for whatever reason, I keep getting distracted by whatever. And then in 2 weeks' time, I might evolve that idea or slightly deviate that idea. So the basis of the idea is still the same and the direction is still the same, but actually I've gone, oh, it would be much better and I would get more out of it and I would enjoy it more if I went this way round rather than just straight. So then what happens is I then get the motivation that I've been lacking for those last couple of weeks to go ahead with it because I feel clearer and I feel more secure with it. So I think it's interesting to look at urgency and momentum, and I suppose ask yourself, as I have been doing, is whatever it is that you're feeling and whatever it is that you're working on, is it motivated by urgency or is it motivated through momentum? So I don't know if that makes sense, but as I kind of said at the start, the way that I would probably reframe that question is it a case of you feel like you need to have something done in order to prove something? Is it coming from like panic? Or is it coming from, we're building something here. No, this is the next logical step. That's what I mean about the urgency and momentum. Yeah, this isn't fully what I planned for this episode, but it's kind of gone off in its own way, which is perfectly fine. And what I want this channel to be kind of like a bit of an open forum for me to float ideas and for you guys to comment and let me know what you think, give me your opinion, and just allow this space for these ideas to be floated. And I will continue to bring my own experiences into this in the hope that it provides some context. I will leave it here. Like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you next Wednesday.